This is how you make a really quick breakfast pocket. So I start off with some eggs, some shredded cheese, and some sliced ham. I take my crescent rolls and I just roll them out and I fill them with all the mixture. You can fill it to your likings, bacon, or whatever you guys want. I brush it with heavy cream, but that's optional. And then I sprinkle some everything bagel seasonings, also optional. I got my air fryer going at 400 degrees for 8 minutes and we're all done. Quick and easy breakfast.
I saw this crab boy I wanted to try, so here we go. Pop in your sausages, your crab. I use Dungeness. Your corn. Yes, sir. Slice your lemon up, your onion. Okay, the seasoning. There we go. Butter acting funny on me. And yes, 1 stick. A whole lot of garlic, baby. Do not be shy on the garlic. Yes, don't be shy with the lemon either. I used another one. That's up to you. The scrimps. There you go, $3.50.
Hey, sexy. Glad you stopped by. I just wanted to make you your new favorite 15-minute healthy dinner. You're going to rinse and drain a can of chickpeas, and then you're going to dry them off with a towel so you don't kill yourself with splattering oil. And then cook them on medium-high, but don't touch them. You're going to want to touch them, but if you touch them, they won't get nice and crispy. Meanwhile, grab a bowl and toss in some chopped red onions, some avocado, some tomatoes, some minced garlic, a lot of fresh herbs, some pomegranate seeds, some lime juice. Honestly, this tastes a lot better when you chop it finer, but I wanted it to look pretty for the picture. And then you're going to add some salt, some olive oil, and your crispy chickpeas. And she's a beauty, just like you. Full recipes on my Insta.
Hello everybody! For today's video, I am making a spinach and artichoke dip bagel. I love this dip, but I've never made it before. I combined cream cheese, sour cream, and mayo. After mixing, I put in the artichoke hearts, and then of course a bunch of spinach. Most recipes I saw called for frozen spinach, but I only had fresh, so hopefully it's alright. After mixing some more, I added a garlic salt, and then some shredded mozzarella cheese. Since this is my first time making it, I wanted to keep it kind of simple, just in case I messed up somehow. After baking the dip for about 20 minutes, I'm putting a layer on top of each of the slices. And on top of each of the pieces, I'm going to add a little bit more mozzarella cheese. And then I let them broil for about 5 minutes. This is how they look, and they tasted delicious.
Make some dang cheesesteak quesadillas. Go Birds! You want to take a nice half-frozen ribeye steak. You want it to be half-frozen so you can slice it as thin as possible. You almost want it to be translucent. Now you got nice little steaky ribbons. Chop an onion into a nice medium dice. I loop a pan, a bunch of oil. Look at that sizzle. Now we're cooking with heat, Trevor. Give it a little pinch of salt and stir it around a little bit. You're not trying to caramelize, just got a good grill on them. After a few minutes, you're going to crank the heat to high and then move all the onions to one side. Now you throw in your beefs. Try and get a lot of surface area on the pan. Give it a hefty dusting of salt. Fold in your onions once it's almost cooked. Need a little bit of oil in another pan. And throw your tortilla in the pan. We got white American on one side, provolone on the other. The best combination. Take a hefty portion of the steak and onions. Add it to one side. Then you gotta reach in with your hands and give it a flip. Ah, yeah, let it burn. Give it a flip. Yep. Give it a whack. This is the thing that I enjoy. I had a good freaking quesadilla, man.
Hey guys, here's the last meal that I made for my teacher's aide since her son passed. I only needed 1 pound of ground beef for this, but I was also making another meal, and that's the meal I posted before this, so I just split that evenly between both. I have some frozen bacon grease. I just put that in ice cube trays, and whenever I need bacon grease, I just pop them out. These beans were pretty dry, so I added some sour cream, and then my meat I seasoned with the taco seasoning, and I accidentally poured too much water, but that's okay. And then I just mixed that up. I popped my enchilada sauce can like this so that it could pour easily, and then I just started lining my pan with some sauce and building the burritos. Usually it would be better if you layered it, but it was already midnight when I was doing this, so I just tried to roll them up real fast and throw them in there so I could hurry up and bake them. I added extra sauce because my coworker does not like her food dry, topped it with cheese, and baked it at 375 for about 20 or 30 minutes.
All right, everybody, so I'm on my quick lunch break. What I have right here is some shredded steak with some banana peppers. I got green beans at the bottom, and I have some Gaines Bakery diet hacking sauce. But that is my keto lunch today.
Veggie TikTok is officially my new favorite place to be, so here is a Brussels sprout recipe. I grew up despising Brussels sprouts because I was served them boiled with vinegar, and that's gross. So here is a roasted Brussels sprout recipe, which is delicious. So I start by cutting off the ends and then chopping them up and separating them with my hands to get some good leafy parts that will get crispy in the oven, and then some hearts that will stay tender in the oven. And then I added crushed red pepper, paprika, garlic, salt, and pepper, and then I mixed it all up with some olive oil, put it on a pan, drizzled some more olive oil on it, added some more crushed red pepper because I love that spice, and then drizzled it with honey to give it a little bit of sweetness. And then in the oven at 425 for about 12 to 15 minutes, shake halfway through, and wow, this was so delicious. Please try it.
Have you made this before? It's one of my favorite keto-friendly snacks. It's simple to do and it's delicious. All you gotta do is grate cheese onto your frying pan, fry it up, flip it, take it off, let it cool, and enjoy. It's a keto-friendly snack you're gonna love.
There are a lot of ways to make chicken and dumplings, but this way is my favorite.
Start by cooking a whole chicken for an hour over medium-high in a large stock pot with a teaspoon of poultry seasoning, some salt, 2 quarts of chicken broth, and enough water just to cover the chicken. Remove the chicken from the broth, then let it cool and shred it. Season the broth with salt and pepper, then add the shredded chicken back to the broth and bring it up to a simmer. Meanwhile, make the dumplings by combining 3 cups of all-purpose flour, half a teaspoon of poultry seasoning, a 1/3 cup of shortening, 2 teaspoons of bacon drippings, and a cup of milk. Knead the dough until it's smooth and then roll it an 8-inch thick and cut it into 1-inch pieces. Thicken the broth by adding a mixture of equal parts cornstarch and water. Add the dumplings to the broth and cook it for 25 minutes before serving. It's just like grandma's or Cracker Barrel.
You have to try this. It's the best ramen ever. First, make your ramen like normal and then drain out all the water. Then place it back into the pan and add some butter and some Parmesan cheese. Then add some half and half and then some of the packet and then stir it all up. Look at how good this looks. It kind of tastes like fettuccine alfredo with a
This is another of my mom's recipes. It's called chicken cakes. Like salmon or crab cakes, only it's made with canned chicken. They're quick, easy, and almost everyone likes them. I hope you enjoy. 2 12.5-ounce cans of chicken breast. 24 saltine crackers, but we gotta crush them. Lots of you gave me the tip to put them in a bag and use a rolling pin. But I saw this in the drawer and thought it looked way more fun. Dump your cracker crumbs in the bowl. Drain your chicken. In goes both cans. 1 heaping 1/3 cup mayo. That's just cooking spray on it. 2 tablespoons lemon juice. You can also add onion, but we don't like it. Get in there with a clean hand and mix it all together. It should look something like this when you're done. Medium-high heat. Start forming balls and mash into patties. Spray your pan. Add the cakes into the pan. It's been 4 minutes and mine are ready to flip. And we're done. All done. I hope you enjoy.
Life 101. All right, so tonight we're making colossal lobster with premium crab meat. So go ahead and get your lobster tail. You want to cut it down its spine, and then you're going to go ahead and lift that meat out onto the top of the shell, okay? So when I get it outside of the shell, I'm going to go ahead and coat it with a butter mixture. It's basically butter, cilantro, and some garlic. All right, so there's my crab meat. Next, I'm going to go ahead and get my mixture together. So basically all of these ingredients, I put them into a bowl. Make sure you only use the yolk, not the egg white, okay? And then you get your crab meat and then you gently put it into the mixture. You don't want to break it up into teeny tiny pieces. So try to keep them as lump as possible. Mix it up real good like I did here. And then you're going to go ahead and get that lobster tail, put that crab meat on top, and then you want to put it back into the oven. I baked it at 375. When it was all done, I drizzled some more garlic butter on top until it was all done. Look at that. Don't it look good? Hey guys, definitely not authentic, but this is how I make my stuffed shells. I always season my pasta water with some chicken bouillon seasoning, and I use jumbo shells. They didn't have ground Italian sausage, so they substituted for these. I cut the casing off and just made sure I separated it really well while I was cooking it, and I seasoned with a little bit of garlic powder and onion powder. Once my shells were done cooking, I drizzled some olive oil over them and made sure they were all separated and let them cool. And then in my ricotta, I added 1 egg and I seasoned it pretty heavily because I didn't want it to be bland. Added in about 3/4 a bag of the shredded cheese and some of that Italian sausage that I cooked, and I saved some on the side. Added in my ranch season. Just kidding, just kidding. I poured some sauce in my pan and I just started stuffing the shells. And then once I was done, I poured the rest of the jar of sauce on top, spread it around, added in some of the sausage that I saved, and topped it with plenty of cheese. Baked it at 375 for about 30 minutes, and I put Parmesan on top and a breadstick on the side.
So on the menu for tonight, we were supposed to have Swedish meatballs, but I'm not feeling Swedish meatballs, so I'm just going to take this ground beef and form it into some hamburger steaks. I'm going to get some olive oil going in my skillet. And I'm gonna add a little pat of butter for flavor. I went ahead and seasoned them up with some seasoned salt, paprika, garlic powder, and pepper. And then I'm gonna give them just the lightest dusting of flour. This is gonna be to thicken the gravy later. I'm gonna do this on both sides. My skillet is nice and hot. I'm gonna go ahead and get my hamburger patties in there. While the patties are browning, I'm gonna go ahead and peel these potatoes because I'm gonna make mashed potatoes. They had a good crust on one side, so I went ahead and flipped them over. I went ahead and took them out of the pan because I'm gonna make some gravy now. My big one broke in half, but that's okay, it'll eat the same. I'm gonna thinly slice one onion.
How to make the best sandwich you've ever had.
We need to step up your mayonnaise and mustard game. This is my homemade whole grain mustard, and then I also have some Dijon. Homemade mayonnaise, check out my previous video to learn how to make it.
Both types of mustard, a bunch of fresh herbs. I have parsley, chives, and basil.
All of your herbs straight in. Lemon juice, season with salt and pepper.
Some beautiful heirloom tomatoes, season with Maldon salt.
And fresh pepper.
Slice up some avocado. No more romaine, get a nice tender lettuce like this. I made a light Dijon vinaigrette for the lettuce, lightly dressed.
Make sure to get some good bread.
I'm using lemon and herb roasted turkey. I like to spread a little bit of the sauce on top. Mayo, mustard, both sides of the bread. Our lightly dressed lettuce, tomatoes. On the other side, avocado, and the turkey. I added a little Swiss, slice it up.
I literally dream about this spicy tuna crispy rice. It might be the best thing I've ever made. You're first gonna rinse 2 cups of sushi rice and add it to a pot with 3 cups of water. You're gonna let that come to a boil and then cover it and simmer for 20 minutes. Next, you're gonna add 3 tablespoons of sugar with 1/4 cup of rice vinegar and salt. Microwave, then add sesame oil. Mix that into the rice when it's ready, and then you're gonna push it into an 8x8 saran pan, and you're going to refrigerate that for at least 8 hours. You want it really, really cold so when you fry it, it doesn't fall apart. Before taking it out of the fridge 8 hours later, you're going to make spicy tuna. I mixed sriracha and mayo, and then I cut up my tuna and I added it. Then I cut up the rice and I poured oil into a pan, got it hot enough, and fried it. You want to do about 4 minutes on each side. And that's how it came out. I then added mashed avocado and the spicy tuna on top, and oh my.
I'm going to show you how easy it is to make this Japanese snack. So it says fish cake, but I think these are more like imitation crab meat sticks. I'm using Kewpie mayo, which is a Japanese brand. Then add sriracha sauce depending on how spicy you want it. Mix that well and then add more if needed. Then I'm using a plastic seaweed container. And just add your rice. I'm using medium green rice, which is a bit sticky. Flatten it and top with seaweed, and then top with the crab meat. These were so good. I'm not really sure what they're called, but it kind of reminds me of sushi.
I'm about to put you guys on to the best way to eat sweet potato. Literally the best way.
Yes, you can put aluminum foil in the air fryer. I usually spray the bottom so that the sweet potato doesn't get stuck. And then I also spray the sweet potato with a coconut oil spray and add cinnamon to it. Then I stick it in the air fryer at 400 for 12 minutes. And this is the best part. Almond butter on every piece. Ooh!
Friday night seems to be my live night, so I'm going to pop on again tonight around 8:30. But listen, I'm going to make it cooler this time. I'm coming prepared this time. I'm going to give some stickers away and play some games with you guys. And for the super observant, keep a close eye on my videos today. I might be asking some questions about things you see in them later. You never know. And if you have anything you want me to talk about or questions you have for me, ask me in the comments and I'll do my best to answer them. Have an awesome day.
Do you want to know the secret ingredient for getting the crispiest skin on your next roast chicken? Well, surprise, it's mayonnaise. Mayo's 2 main ingredients are eggs and oil, so it helps give that super even color, and you can mix in whatever herbs or flavorings you'd like.
For dinner tonight, I made some awesome wine braised short ribs. I'm first browning off the meat on all sides until it looks like this, and then taking out the meat, adding carrots, onions, and celery and browning that off too. I'm then adding some flour to thicken and some tomato paste for flavor and mixing that in. We're then going to get this pot drunk with a whole bottle of Cave Sauve. Once in, add that meat back into the pot and reduce the liquids until about half, like this. Then add a whole carton of low sodium beef stock, add some parsley, rosemary, and oregano, and a whole head of garlic. Top with a lid, pop into a 350-degree oven for at least 2 hours until it looks tender like so. Place on top of polenta or mashed potatoes, and top with a little bit of fresh parsley.
If you love fried pork chops, you're gonna love this video. Add enough high heat cooking oil to a pan that covers halfway up the pork chop. This is standard breading procedure: flour, egg, and breadcrumbs. I season each layer with salt and pepper and add garlic powder to the breadcrumbs. Keep one hand for dry and one hand for wet. Dip the pork chop in flour, then into the egg and switch your hand, then into the breadcrumbs. I use panko breadcrumbs because they're super crispy, and you also want to press all the breadcrumbs into the pork chop. Heat the oil to 350 degrees on medium heat. Check with the thermometer, that's the best way. Then lay your pork chop down in the pan. You don't have to use your hand like I did. You can use tongs. Then when it's nice and golden brown, turn it over very carefully not to splash the oil. The internal temp should be at least 140 degrees. You can eat pork chops a little bit pink. Finish with flaky Molden salt because it looks pretty. Comment your favorite style of pork chops, I want to know. And trust me, you can cook.
In Lebanon, we call this mdardara. Everywhere else, it's called mjaddara. It's made with lentils, which are protein-packed and a great meat alternative. It's easy. You saute your onions, you wash your lentils, and you put your lentils on top of the onions and saute them together. 4 cups of lentils takes 8 cups of water using the same measuring tool. Add butter or oil, salt, seasoned salt, and black pepper. Cover, bring it to a boil, and remove the foam that forms. Now add rinsed bulgur or rice and 3 cups of boiling water. Mix it together, put your heat on low, and cover the pot. At this point, you'll start caramelizing the onion. This part is important because the sweetness of the onions gets infused into the oil, and the oil is used to actually flavor the lentils. Most people use 1 onion, but I use 2 because I love the flavor of caramelized onions. Every 10 minutes or so, move the lentils around in the pot to make sure they're all getting cooked. Put some onions on the side for garnish and put the rest in and the oil into the pot. And mix them all together. Pour yourselves a plate and put the caramelized onions on top. Now I know you're all gonna fight me on.
Here's what you could do with leftover ground turkey for a quick dinner. Roll it in flour tortilla, and if you don't have turkey, use cheese. And then pan fry it in a little bit of olive oil on all sides until nice and crispy. I like to top with some guac, some pickled veggies, and some salsa and sour cream.
Basically, it's my version of a...
I'm gonna show you how to make the best pork chops you've ever had in your entire life. We're gonna start out by scoring that fat on the sides, and we're gonna season with salt, pepper, and a little bit of rosemary. You're gonna wanna do that on both sides of the pork chops. Then we're gonna get a pan scorching hot. We're gonna add a little bit of oil in there, and then we're gonna throw the pork chops in fat side down to render that fat for about a minute. Once the fat's rendered, it's gonna look a little something like this. It's gonna be a golden brown, beautiful. We're gonna throw it on the side for 3 minutes, cook them on the sides, and we're gonna flip once they look like that. We're gonna flip them over, and then we're gonna cook them on the other side, but we're gonna add in a little bit of garlic, some butter, and we're gonna melt that and baste it onto the pork chops. Once we're done basting for a couple minutes, we're gonna take them off and let them sit. They're gonna rest while we deglaze that pan with orange juice, balsamic vinegar, salt, and butter. We're gonna reduce that by like 50%, and once it's reduced, we're gonna throw the pork chops back in for 30 seconds aside to glaze the pork chops. They're gonna look a little something like that. That's done. We're gonna take them out, slice them up, and serve them with a side of rice or whatever you want to do. They were fire. My girlfriend loved them.